We're going to click on New Project. Now, immediately we're confronted with this sort of scary looking box. It's not that scary looking. What it is telling you is it forces you to save your project in a location, which is good. Okay, so you're not just saving it willy-nilly all over your desktop. So we're going to call this demo delete, and I'm going to browse to a location that looks good, and that's the old 2019. Why not? No, we were in spring. Those are all your grades. What was that thing? Design 260. Here's our fake little folders we made because I just want to reinforce kind of our folder style. So let's just make a new folder, tutorials, create it, new folder, Premiere Pro, choose it, boom. Okay, so that's where the project is. Now you have another thing here called scratch disks, and this is where you will save all the render files. Also, you can do where your captured audio, etc. is. Generally, we can just leave this alone. Okay, but if you're working on a bigger project, a more serious project, you can designate certain hard drives of where to put this information. It will speed up your computer if it's not pulling all this information from your computer's actual hard drive. Right now, we're going to leave it alone. The default is same as project, as you can see here. Okay, so we shouldn't have to change anything here because we're not capturing. Our audio will be all automatic here. So all we have to worry about is our name and the location. Okay, I hit OK, and hopefully the computer does not crash. It did not crash. Okay, so this is very weird to look at this on the laptop. So let me get my bearings. Truth be told, I learned how to edit things on Final Cut 7, and when Final Cut went to Final Cut 10, I switched over to Adobe Premiere with much trepidation, and I'd never learned the Adobe hotkeys. At the time, a little history lesson, Adobe was really happy that Apple went to Final Cut 10 because so many professional video editors hated it. They got a huge influx in people signing up for Premiere. And so they did a little thing where you could just ingest your Premiere or your Final Cut 7 shortcut keys. And so they're all the same from Final Cut 7. So it shouldn't get in the way. It's just if I fumble around, it's because I haven't set this computer up for that. So here's our right off the bat, we have timeline, and there's no sequences. We have Adobe's new thing here is to have all these different panels, which will be a good place to start. Remember in Photoshop we had our motion thing. So you could do learning. I think shouldn't be in graphics. I'm just going to do assembly, and that just means this is just we're just going to assemble a project here. It's going to be extremely simple. Okay, here's our project window. We can double click in here, just like in After Effects, and I can import anything. So what I want is that music, Chad Crouch. Okay, there he is. So we import some music. Hit double click it, it'll preview, so we can double check what we have. There it is, there's a familiar waveform. So right off the bat, we're thinking, why is he showing me this? This is foolish. So what we can do is we're going to go to new sequence. Okay, we're going to create a sequence instead of a composition. In Premiere, it's called sequences. Okay, so you could also do Command N for a new sequence. But I'm going to do File, New Sequence. Okay, this is also incredibly intimidating until you realize that it kind of isn't. What we need to do is go to, we're going to be in ARRI 1080p 24 frames a second. Okay, we can see that we're at square pixels here, which is what we need in After Effects, and we need our 1920 by 1080. And up here, we can see here's a preset description for editing HD monitoring. Okay, so we hit OK, and now we have a sequence. Okay. Now, let's see what happens when we just drag this in. Suddenly we have a sequence. And we have our little waveform. Everything's looking good. And unlike After Effects, any music we bring in here plays wonderfully. Okay. And we have the frames and the seconds here, so we can go out to 40 seconds. We know our project's going to be 40 seconds long. And so right here, we're on 40 seconds. Here down here, by dragging this little thing in, I can zoom in or out. It can be incredibly disorienting if you're super close, so just remember that you can drag in and out here. Okay. Up here we have our basic icon here, which is the razor tool, which is going to be to cut. Okay. In the olden days with film, they would cut film with razor blades. Okay, so it remains to this day. So I hit razor blade. The little snap tool is on by default. So right off the bat, why am I cutting it at 40 seconds? Because that's how long our project is supposed to be, right? The totality of it. But I'm not going to do it actually right now. So I psyched you out. What I'm actually going to do is set this up so that we can send these sequences that we're going to create over to After Effects. So the first thing I need to do that is I need audio and I need a visual. And I'm going to make my own visual by hitting, let's see, we do new. This is the thing that let's see, we go into graphics. Hold on. The stupid zoom thing's in my way. Can you guys see it? You can't see it. Get off there. Maybe I can just grab it. Ah, grabbed it. Okay. So one second here. Should be able to right click. I'm trying to find, okay, so in the old days, there's legacy titles, and now we can do this title. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so you can just use the type tool here, which is probably the quickest way to do this. So basically we need our first sequence here, and I can right click on it, hit speed duration, and I can see the duration here. If I click, we know our first sequence, it has to be 10 seconds long. Hit OK. Now I have 10 seconds of title here. Okay. I can hold down Option and click on this and just drag it directly up and drag it over. And if I click in it, I can call this section 2. Okay, so we're starting to just build out a really rough sketch of all the stuff we're going to have to animate. So you can start to get a sense of how long 10 seconds actually is. And if you want, let's get our base down. So again, I click on section 2, I hold down Option, I drag, and we have a new section here. This would be section 3. Option, drag, section 4. Okay. Now, oftentimes I get asked why I stagger things like this. For me, it's just a visual way to do it in a way that I won't mess up. In Premiere, like most non-linear editing things, if I want to stack them like this, I can. But if I overlay like this, suddenly it'll automatically slice in there, okay? So it's just easier for me to separate the layers. You have unlimited layers that will just stack up like this. So for me, I like to see that cut. It just makes it so I don't mess up. It's just an old habit. Okay, so section 2, section 3, section 4, okay? Now, once we have our 10 seconds established, those of you who want to do like seamless transitions, you could set that up here. So let's see. This seems like a good place to do it right here. So I can just drag this clip here, drag this one here, and let's see how that plays. Seamless transition, and you could do that throughout. There's a good one. Okay, boom, boom. Okay, so I think that's enough just to show this demo. Good transition. Okay, so.
Seamless transition, like when they fade into each other.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that more?
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay, sorry.
No, really good. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to set it up to get to After Effects, and then we can work in those seamless transitions. So there's a ton of different ways to do that. But let me show you the basic thing of why we're doing this, okay? So we have section 1, 2, 3, and 4. And here's where we get our blade tool out. And with snapping on, again, snapping's here, I can turn it on or off. It'll snap to see these little icons here, and we can cut our music here. We can cut our music here, cut our music here, and cut our music here. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of music. Then I can actually go down to the end here, and I can delete that. We can always get it back by dragging it out, but we're just going to delete it here. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to, if this was really me doing this, it is really me, but you know what I mean. I'm going to hit Command S for save. Okay. Always be saving. And I'm going to go back to assembly. We never really had to be out of assembly. Our text tool is right here. And we have our song, and we have our sequence, okay? If I click in here, I can say, this is project 2. Let's just call it non-destruct setup, okay? So this is just a way to cover your tracks as you're going through here. I've seen too many people in tears, and they're like, oh, you already deleted, I can't get back, or whatever. I'm showing you how you can make sure you can always go back to this and start over once we get our After Effects in. Okay, so I can go to this sequence. You can also do list view here, which might be a little bit easier. Project 2, non-destruct. I hit Command C, Command V, and there's the copy. And I can say this will be After Effects linked. Okay, I got really excited. So I made caps on it. I don't know if you saw that. Okay, so now I can actually, let's just double click on this guy here on the old. Okay, so here it is. Why it's important to change your sequences is because you can actually be doing a lot of work in a sequence and not even realize you're doing it in the wrong sequence. So always make sure you're in the right sequence. All these exclamation points tell me that I'm in the right sequence. So I can actually go back to this one and exit out, because that's kind of our backup. So again, now we have 2 copies of the same thing. We hit save. Now, here's the important part. With After Effects being completely blank, there's no saved project in here. It's completely blank. I can get started. You could also close After Effects, so After Effects doesn't even have to get opened to do the next thing, which might be a good way to go, because if you have an older project, it's going to embed all our linked comps into this older project, which can cause a headache later. Since we haven't done any work yet in After Effects, really you shouldn't have the problem, but I'm just letting you know right off the bat. Okay, so go into Premiere, I select this first section, and to make it really clear, let's go back to our type tool. We'll call this section 1 scale. Boom. Okay, so we know this is going to be scale, just to be clear. Okay, we select this section. You could also just go down, right click on it, and go to the big one. Replace with After Effects composition. Okay. Immediately that goes back to After Effects and it forces us to save the thing that I didn't save before. Okay. So I'm going to go back to our little tutorial thing, new folder, save this. Okay. So immediately in After Effects, look what happened. Okay, we have solids, which is empty. We have scale, which is literally just its own composition with what I typed in before. We have our music, and here's the big important thing: demo delete linked comp 1. Okay, it's a very ugly name, and this contains our music and section 1 scale, which is a nested comp inside. If I double click on it, it'll go to this text. Okay, this is where most people get confused. This is embedded from Premiere, but we don't even need it anymore. Okay, we need our music, but we don't need this at all. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm just going to delete that. Okay, and now I have demo delete comp linked comp 1. Okay, it doesn't seem like much now, but here's our music timed up, and I'm going to do something so we know that it's linked, just to hammer it home. First thing I'm going to do is enter on here, say section 1 scale. Okay, I'm going to make a new solid, Command Y, hit OK. We're filled with the blue thing. I hit save, and I hit Command Tab to go to Premiere. Immediately, it's live linked into Premiere. Okay, and you'll see now that it's red because it's an After Effects comp nested into Premiere. Okay, so it's all set up, and now we can do our section 2. This is where it starts to pay off because it's going to be timed up perfectly. So I right-click, place with After Effects composition. Same thing, and look what happens is we have the music doubled. Okay, that's another thing where people get kind of confused. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to go back to here, hit undo. I'm going to prep our After Effects project a little bit better. So I'm going to make a new folder and call this section 1 scale. And I can put all this stuff into scale. Okay, now it's nice and clean. Hit save, go back to Premiere. Section 2, right click, place with After Effects composition. And now we can see we have section 2, which is just the text, which we don't need. Delete that. And we have our linked comp. Anytime it says linked comp, that is what we really need. I'm going to call this section 2 opacity question mark. I don't know what it's going to be. We go into a new folder, section 2 opacity question mark. So I don't know yet. So we put to that folder. Here's our section 2 opacity question mark. Do another bright garish color. You might choose to do soft pleasing colors or no colors at all. Hit save, go back to Premiere. So now we have 2 sections. Okay, and it's not updating because the computer's slow because of the zoom. And so this is kind of the first thing that trips people up. We have to go render effects into out. And rendering is drawing it. You'll see this will turn green once it's done. Let's see. For now, we'll just kind of wait. Okay, see, green. Told you. Okay, so that means it's rendered. As soon as it cleans itself up, boom, it'll play perfectly. I hope. No, it'll definitely play perfectly. Okay, so here's where we talk about transitions. Let's say that this blue section was animated perfectly, and this section was animated perfectly, and we broke them up like this because now I can focus on this 10 seconds, and I can focus on this 10 seconds. Okay, so we can do this a couple different ways. I can let's just make all 4 of them. Please. New folder. Delete that one. Move everything in. Back. Section 4. Don't need that. What should name it first? New section 4. Save. Okay, so now we have a really clear After Effects project. We go into Premiere and it's all set up. But let's see the different ways we could do it. So say everything was animated perfectly. We could export out of Premiere. Okay, and this is what we're going to build to is exporting out of Premiere with our title sequence, etc. The other way to do it, the old school way, you could go into After Effects, and we can pull out section 4. We can pull out section 1. Pull out section 2. Pull out section 3. I'm only doing this to access these sections. And with section, let's just make it cleaner. Okay, so I'm just going to put everything I don't want to see. I don't want to deal with it. Okay, so now we have these 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. I go into section 1, and I can Command-C and Command-V and copy it. Okay, so you have to be careful when you do this because it looks very similar to the original copied one. So I hit Enter, and immediately I'm going to name this Master Export. Okay, when I click on Master Export, all it is number 1. It's just a duplicate of it. So I can hit Command-K and bring up our sequence settings. or go up to Composition Settings, Command K. And all I have to do is put this at 40 and some change, so 40 seconds. We'll just leave that last little bit on. Hit OK. Now if I zoom out, we have our comp here, and I can drag in the other comps. But probably the better way to do that would be to undo all that and say composition new, name it master, export. And as long as our HTTP24 is set up 1920 1080 square pixels, if we make this 40 seconds long, hit OK, it's empty. Now I can drag section 1 in here, go down here, section 2 in here. A shortcut here is to use the brackets. So if you see, here's something, a little tip. So black here, using command arrow, I can go to right where it's not black, our first comp, go to the right, it's black, meaning it's empty. Our section 2, if I hit left bracket, it'll jump to our cursor, okay? And right back, it'll butt up on the right side, so it's left, right on the cursor there, okay? So now we have that lined up. Go to the end here, bring in the third section, left bracket, butts it up, go down to the end, using the same trick to black, bring in section 4, left click, and now I have the mirror image of what's in our Premiere, and I can export from After Effects. Okay, so when we're talking about transitions, here's another thing we can talk about, how to modify them. So say you have your 10 seconds, it's nicely cut, but you want to make a smoother transition between these. Once you have all your main animation done, we can just extend our sequence a little bit. So the big thing for this project is really to not worry too terribly much about the transitions. You're going to have enough going on. But if you are somebody who really cares about the transitions, this is one way you can do it, is I extend our duration a little bit. And immediately if we go back into master, you see the little hatch here. So now I can change the actual opacity using T and blend it just manually, just like anything you can animate it in here. Okay. So I think at this point I'm going to stop because it is so much to take in at once, and we're going to get some questions and stuff, and we'll go over those. So if we go back to Premiere, we're going to have to re-render those, but everything's all set up properly. Okay, saved.